Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve. Or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone. Breaking news.
And I'm Jake Novak in for Roger Stone tonight, and I'm going to lead off the news tonight with some breaking news this program. President Trump now just posting in the last 90 minutes or so that he's going to sign an executive order to instruct Mark-Wayne Mullen, the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, to pay those TSA agents who have gone weeks without getting paid, so many of them calling out sick, so many of them just outright quitting, 400 of them according to the latest reports. Get them paid and do an end run around this partial government shutdown that the Democrats continue to vote for, they created and continue to vote for. Yes, you can bet someone will challenge this in the courts and say the president doesn't have the authority to do it. But if you were listening to the Katz and Cosby program on many of these stations a couple of hours ago, you heard Alan Dershowitz say the president absolutely has the legal authority to do that. I think what will really make this whole thing, what will hinge this decision will really hinge on the emergency situation. Declaring an emergency that we can't have so many of our major airports shutting down or not able to function. And that would really classify as the kind of emergency that a president can use to go around Congress and fund the TSA. This would be a big deal. And it would also, of course, force Democrat groups. They'll probably do it through some kind of shell group or a third party. But they'll try to challenge this in court and try to keep the airports at this terrible situation. Now, again, it's not every airport every day. This has been something that's been a rolling situation. Yesterday it was bad at Houston. Today it was better. It depends on the day and who's calling out where. But it is too many airports, too many long lines. The ICE agents there have done good work. They've made it more safe. You know, when you have large crowds in small areas, it's never safe. So they made it more safe, but in some places they haven't been able to get the lines moving as quickly because there have been so many TSA agents to replace. So this is what the president has announced just this evening. Also breaking news around the same time, a little earlier, President Trump telling Iran that it has another 10 days now until April 6th, starting today, before the United States will hit its power grid if it doesn't stop attacking shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and on down that line. That is a similar threat that, Iran was originally on the clock as of Sunday evening, and that passed with President Trump giving them more time again, probably to get some more talks going, trying to get that strait open. So those two pieces of breaking news for you, just as we begin the Stone Zone here again. I am Jake Novak again for Roger Stone. Great honor to be here with you. A little bit later, at the beginning of the next hour, I'm going to tell you about a shocking poll, the next half hour, I should say, shocking polls on both coasts that should have the Democrats a little bit worried. I know that the overall midterm polls haven't been that great for Republicans, but, you got to dig in a little bit deeper here. And there's a shocking poll out of New York, and I think a shocking poll out of California. So those are the things I want you to wait for in the next half hour. Now, we are in an America right now where I could talk about every one of the next stories I'm going to talk about, but they all have one common thread before I just list them off. We are living in America now where we are really dealing with alternative reality concepts for a lot of Americans right now. And that's always the case to some degree. Of course, in any society, the rich see life different than the poor. The educated see life different from the uneducated. Healthy people see things differently than unhealthy people, young, old. There's always alternative realities in any given society. But what we're seeing here in America right now is a growing number of Americans who are living in a complete deception, a complete illusion of what reality is. Partisanship and hatred, they often go together, let's face it. Hatred is a huge motivator in elections and in politics. Anyone who tells you different is lying. But partisanship and hatred can lead to some real delusional outlooks on life. And I want to list a few of those delusional outlooks right now that are starting to get really pervasive. And I'm seeing, and you're probably seeing it in your circle and circle of friends and relatives, just like I am. I have a couple of people in my wider circle of friends and acquaintances who literally believe the United States is losing this war to Iran right now. Now, you can say that you wanted regime change in 3-4 weeks and you haven't gotten it and you're upset about it. You can say that we haven't seen a complete uprising in the streets of Iran yet. You can say all those things and say you're disappointed about that. You wanted it to be lightning quick. I get it. But in no reality whatsoever is the United States losing this war. Now, it's terrible that we've had some deaths, but we're talking about fewer than 20 deaths, I believe, right now, as we go up against not only a nation of 90 million people, but a nation that has spent the last 47 years focusing on killing people, on its military, not so much on its homeland defense, I should say that, but on its ability to kill people that they believe are their enemies, which is just about everybody else. Not just Americans, not just Israelis, not just Jews, not just Christians, just about everybody else. They're shooting at everybody. And they've been training for that both culturally and practically for almost 50 years. And we're bombing and shelling and doing other types of things to Iran hour after hour, day after day, and we've had very, very few casualties and deaths. One is too much. One is too many, and I get that. But the idea that we're losing this war, and that people can actually say that, and they say it publicly, is an absolute delusion. That's not an exaggeration. It's a complete delusion, and there are millions of Americans who believe this. And yeah, it's because of the mainstream media feeding them all kinds of negative news all the time, but it's also their own delusions. Delusion number 2, hearing this from a very highly educated person in my wider family circle, that Trump is the reason why we have long lines at the airports. There's not one objective fact that supports that statement. The Democrats voted for this partial shutdown, targeted the DHS and the TSA specifically, and on numerous occasions have continued to vote not to fund it. How any rational, thinking human being can think that President Trump is responsible for this there is no explanation for that. That is a complete delusion. The argument is, well, he's the president and the Republicans have control of the House and the Senate, so anything bad that happens must be their fault. That was the argument I heard. It's ludicrous. Without a filibuster 60 or more Senate vote in the group in the Senate, a minority party can gum up the works all the time. Shutdown is something they can always threaten. No objective facts in that statement either. Here's delusion number 3. ICE agents are making things worse and more dangerous at the airports. Absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. There have been no incidents, although I did see a deranged person on one of the lines who probably was not even a ticketed passenger who just went nuts and started yelling at ICE agents, but there was no violence. We've had several days of ICE agents at these major airports, and no, they're not able to speed up the lines everywhere. They are in some places, not in others. But there's been no violence. And in fact, at the end of this program, at the end of this hour, I'm going to tell you about an amazing positive thing. And there's been a lot of amazing positive things, but this was the big one. An amazing positive thing the ICE officers have done at an airport here in New York. What kind of delusion is that? They've made it unsafe. They've made it safer. And again, every objective fact says so. Delusion number 4. And this is a long-running delusion. This isn't anything new. But now, people in the Democratic Party, politicians, are actually saying this out loud. The mayor of Chicago, Illinois, one of our largest and most important cities in America, saying out loud just this week that putting people in jail is racist. Really? Because there are so many people in jail who are a minority and they outpace the percentage of the minority in the free population? Again, an incredible delusion. It's actually the least racist thing you can do. Let me ask you a question, America, and I'll ask this question all the time. These minority, black and Latino and other people who are not white criminals who have been convicted, who commit crimes, who do you think that they're targeting? You think they're targeting the white people on Park Avenue? The rich people on Rodeo Drive? Black people are 12 times more likely to be the victims of crime. Period. It's racist to put the people who are targeting minorities in jail. It's the other way around. Another delusion. And the final delusion that we're hearing in America over and over again is that illegal aliens are our top priority. That's how you're going to judge our society, by how we treat illegal aliens, regardless of their criminal background, regardless of their effect on the citizens of this country, the legal citizens. And you had Chris Murphy, who said this a while ago, but his soundbite got resurfaced this week, senator from Connecticut, saying that illegal aliens are our top priority. These are the delusions in America, and I'm going to play some of the sound to back up some of those delusions when we come back from our break. But these are the delusions that are plaguing America right now. These are all absolute falses. This is all the same, on the same level as saying 2 + 2 = 5. There shouldn't be these kinds of splits in American society right now. We can have splits over a lot of different issues. We can discuss what kind of power we want to use. Do we want to go nuclear? Do we want to try to get natural gas? I mean, there's plenty of debates to have. We have no shortage of debates of rational ideas in this country. But we're really seeing full-on delusions right now. And I'm not a psychiatrist, so I think I've got some answers as to why we're seeing these delusions get such a foothold. But before we get to the cause, we need to make sure we understand, we diagnose the problem, which is delusions in America. Delusions on major important issues are spreading. It's getting really sick. And I would tell every single one of the people who believe in any or all 5 of the delusions I just listed to go see a psychiatrist or psychologist. But I have to tell you something. Almost every psychiatrist and psychologist I know is also suffering from one or more of those delusions. That group in our society especially is afflicted by this. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the absolute remedy for this is. I've got some ideas, but I'm not sure of those. But I am sure that we're seeing delusions in America. All right, it's not all bad news, though, folks. On the Stone Zone, I'm going to tell you about a big win in the world of sports and for women. And I'm also going to talk about another aspect of women's life in America right now. It's the divide between women and men, which is growing wider. And I think I know why. We'll be right back on the Stone Zone.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
He likes politics and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone. Where's Roger?
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
Roger Stone, who's a very, one of the smartest political minds. Roger Stone was persecuted. People forget he's actually a brilliant political analyst.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
And I'm Jake Novak again, filling in for Roger Stone. Thank you so much for joining us. Really sad and shocking story out of Spain that had a very sad resolution today, just a few hours ago. I'm going to tell you about that about 50 minutes after the hour. I promise you I've got some good news to talk about in this program, but I have to get back to that serious delusion issue that we have here in America. And, you know, when you have a society that has so many people who are deluded, as we're seeing right now here in the United States, it opens the door for major hatred and major destructive groups in society. And I want you to listen to one of them that was outside of government offices in Philadelphia yesterday. Listen to what this group had to say. This is cut 1.
Until we have done everything in our power to bring the United States to its knees, let us not lose sight of the enemy. For every U.S. military base that crumbles, and for every U.S. soldier who returns home in a casket, we cheer! Hamas, Hezbollah, Ansar Allah, all of the resistance forces we celebrate. These popular voices on the ground spend every waking moment in direct confrontation with Zionism, and they rely on a strong Iranian state to maintain their fighting capacity.
Do you hate America? May a Hamas rocket blow up your family's home.
Yeah. This is what a delusionary society, a society with so many people under delusions, allows to fester in this country. This is a group of people in Philadelphia cheering the idea of dead soldiers. They must not be cheering very much, because thank God we haven't had too many dead American soldiers so far during this massive war against a massive military regime. But this only exists in a society that's broken mentally, with so many people who don't really know what's going on, can't tell right from wrong, can't tell truth from fiction. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying everything is great about, and there's never everything great about any war. Not everything is perfect. And on down the line. But to believe that we're losing the war? To allow people to cheer for dead soldiers because you don't like the war? That you don't really understand the details of? Now, a lot of people listening tonight know the name of this person, know who this person is. Someone named Tokyo Rose. There was actually more than one, but there was one woman in particular, a Japanese woman who grew up mostly in the United States before World War II, went back to Japan before the war started, had a very clear American accent, and she was used for propaganda. They put her on pirate radio. She was mostly only heard by U.S. naval sailors. Wasn't really heard on any homeland because it was just the radio signals weren't that strong. And she sounded a lot like some of these mainstream media outlets right now, talking about how America was losing the war. Your girlfriend has gone and is cheating on you with someone who didn't go to the draft and had to get drafted. All that kind of stuff. But Tokyo Rose, first of all, she was only really one person. There were a couple who did the job, but only one at a time. And there's pretty strong evidence, even though she was convicted, there's pretty strong evidence that she was compelled to do what she did by the Japanese imperial government. I'm not saying she completely wasn't guilty, but she was at least partially forced to do that. What we have in America today is not only millions of Tokyo Roses, influencers, mainstream media pundits who don't know anything, but we also have them combining with today's modern-day Jane Fondas, for those of you who know that story. Jane Fonda, the famous actress, who went over to Hanoi, went over to Vietnam at the height of the Vietnam War, put on a North Vietnamese army uniform, straddled anti-aircraft guns that had killed American pilots just days before, and talked about how America was wrong, the United States was wrong in this war, and just embraced the North Vietnamese. We have a combination of that now in this country. Tokyo Roses and Jane Fondas. And it's leading to a lot of delusions. We got to stop that. All right, when we come back on the Stone Zone, I'll have some good news for you, I promise.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get him his own. It's the Stone Zone.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
Here's Roger Stone. Breaking news.
And I'm Jake Novak in for Roger Stone. Just want to make sure you're updated on the breaking news this evening. President Trump in a Truth Social post saying he's going to sign an order, an executive order, one would assume, to get the TSA funded, to make an end run around the Democrats' shutdown of the DHS. And that, of course, would get a lot of these TSA agents back to work. Many of them are calling out sick. Some of them might even rejoin the TSA, those who quit. So that's your big story. Also, President Trump, in the last couple of hours, telling Iran it has another 10 days now until April 6th to give in on the Strait of Hormuz, stop attacking and threatening shipping there, or the United States will hit its power grid. This is the second time he's postponed that deadline. Obviously, some progress being made in negotiations, or perhaps he's just trying to give the United States more time to knock out their capabilities in the first place. So those are the two breaking stories right now. A little bit later, at the end of this hour, I want to talk about situation. You've heard on the news about all these cases, these social media companies, Google with YouTube and Meta platforms with Facebook and Instagram and even Snapchat getting sued or getting investigated for misleading children, targeting children. I got news for you. It's not just children. Another major group here in America especially that's been targeted successfully by social media and has hurt our society, plain and simple. Now, I'm talking all this hour here on the Stone Zone, and I'm Jake Novak filling in for Roger Stone tonight. I've been talking all this hour about the delusions in America. And one of the people who may be one of the most deluded, or at least he's promoting one of the biggest delusions, is the district attorney for the city of Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, someone who has been one of the most outrageous people in this country in public office for a few years now. And yes, he was one of those George Soros-funded DA candidates. And boy, what a red flag that flew up for me about a decade ago when we learned that George Soros was making major donations to local DA elections. No major donor has ever done that before, ever. And you knew that that wasn't going to be a good situation. And Larry Krasner, probably the worst of them all. And here's what he has to say about what he's going to do to ICE agents. Listen to all the delusions he's promoting here. Listen to this.
This is how it works. You commit crimes within the jurisdiction that is the city and county of Philadelphia, I prosecute you. That is how it works. No, I don't take a phone call from the president saying let him go. No, the president cannot pardon you. I'll say it again. The president cannot pardon you. And yes, I will put you in handcuffs, and I will put you in a courtroom, and if necessary, I will put you in a jail cell.
What's he talking about? What crimes are ICE agents committing? They're going after illegal immigrants. Documented, undocumented people. Objectively legal immigrants who should not be in this country. Also, objectively, absolutely ISIS supported. 80% in every poll of Americans want every illegal immigrant out of this country. Yeah, there were some polls after all that chaos in Minnesota where people said, well, I think ICE might be going a little too far. But even in those polls, the overwhelming majority of people said they still supported the deportation of illegal immigrants. But he's pushing this delusion that what ICE is doing is illegal. And the higher courts continue to uphold the fact that they are legal. And this is what he's pushing. This is an evil person. Now, he either believes this himself or he's pushing this delusion on people. He is putting federal agents in harm's way. This is also, remember, he was the one who called them Nazis and Gestapo-like. This is outrageous. But again, unless you have a delusioned society, a high percentage of society that's delusionary about the facts in this country, somebody like that couldn't get away with it. But that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. There's another delusioned person in America right now, and his name is Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy Kimmel said this the other night, and it's really telling about a lot of things. Not just his partisanship, not just his snarkiness, not just his inability to really make you laugh, but also his delusions. Listen to this.
Don't worry, Trump's got a whole new generation of thinkers lined up, including his newly confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne, Chuck Mike, Bruce Dave Mullen. Maybe Mellon's better. He is the now former senator of Oklahoma. Before he was elected to the Senate, Mark Wayne Mullen was a low-level MMA fighter and a plumber. That's right. We have a plumber protecting us from terrorism now. It worked for Super Mario. Why not Mark Wayne? But honestly, I mean...
Yeah, Mark Wayne Mullen, first of all, we need plumbers in America. All joking aside, it's a great profession, especially now. But what's wrong with that? The guy built a business. I'm going to give you some more information about Mark Wayne Mullen. He was 20 years old when his dad got sick, and he dropped out of college to run the family business, which include plumbing. At the time, it had 6 people working for it in an HVAC and plumbing company. Now it has 150 plus employees. That's the kind of person you want in government. Jimmy Kimmel's also an ignoramus. Who do you think built this country as the founding fathers? They were merchants. They were small business owners. Take a look at the signers of the Declaration of Independence. But the question is here, how delusional do you have to be to think that any large percentage of Americans will find that funny. Who are the writers on that program? Delusions also require people living in a bubble, not seeing reality, not living in a real world. I happen to know these shows have big staffs of writers, more than 10 of them. And not one of those writers said, Jimmy, you may not want to do that joke. Plumbing is hard work. Building a small business is a great test for someone who might want to lead a country or at least be one of the representatives in our government. Maybe don't do that. Who's the executive producer of that show? There's no one to tell Jimmy, don't do that joke? Nobody? Because they're all delusionary. They all think, yeah, this is funny. We'll make fun of someone who works with his hands, someone who built something up from nothing, as opposed to going to college and getting a BA in Bavarian history. That's really what's worth it. Just incredible. Just incredible. I'm going to give you some realities here that people should look at before you talk about red pilling, blue pilling. There's also the black pillars who are ready to call it quits on everything in America right now. Supposedly Trump supporters, supposedly patriots. Let me try to stop you from taking the black pill right now. Huge poll out of New York showing that Kathy Hochul, the incumbent governor, only leads Republican Bruce Blakeman by 52 to 43%. We've got about 7 months and changed for the election. That's a very small amount of votes that Bruce Blakeman, who is still a virtual unknown in most of the state, to make up. That is not 43% for Bruce Blakeman. That's 43% saying, I really don't care what the party is of whoever's running against Kathy Hochul. I'm going to vote for him or her. So all Bruce Blakeman needs to do is make himself a little bit more known and a little bit more palatable to other parts of the state, and he's going to win this thing. And the second poll result you really need to hear is this jungle primary poll out of California. Now, remember, the Democrats in California, in their infinite wisdom, got rid of partisan primaries in California. Now it's just a free-for-all primary. And the top two finishers in the primary, which is coming up on June 2nd in California, they will run off against each other in November in the general election. And if it's two Democrats who come out ahead in the primary, then it'll be two Democrats. And if it's two Republicans, it'll be two Republicans. If it's an elephant and giraffe, whatever. That's the way it works. And right now, two Republicans are leading in the polls. Now, what the Democrats are trying to do is to get a bunch of the Democrats who are running for governor to drop out. So far, that hasn't happened. It's already been 2 weeks now that the Democrats have been rounding up a lot of money to try to convince the 10 Democrats who are running for governor to get a couple of them to drop out so that the other Democrats, at least one of them, can win this primary. So far, not working. By the way, does this sound familiar for those of you listening in New York? All these people, those three candidates who diluted each other in the New York mayor's race? Yeah, it should sound familiar. So that's encouraging, though, that this is going to hurt them. And again, the latest poll that came out on Tuesday showing two Republicans leading was a Democrat-funded poll. This is a Democrat poll. So, it's, you call it an internal poll if you want to, whatever. But right now, it's got Steve Hilton and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco at 1 and 2. And Congressman Eric Swalwell, who's the leading Democrat, he's a good 4 points behind Bianco. They've got to get some of these Democrats to drop out. Even if they do, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out for them. But that's important. Speaking of governors, I just played the Larry Krasner soundbite for you, this incredible soundbite where he says he's going to arrest them. I mean, this is Confederacy-level stuff. This is secession from the government, not respecting the federal law and the Supremacy Clause kind of stuff. Well, you know who could fix this? Even before an election? Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. He has the right to remove district attorneys from counties. They're county officials officially. He won't do it. And Josh Shapiro, his entire profile that they're trying to push on voters, particularly older, more traditional Democrat Party voters and Jewish voters, they're trying to push this. He's a moderate. Not only is he not going to remove Larry Krasner, I got news for you, he's not going to even say anything about him. Not publicly. This is where we are right now, folks. It's really quite disturbing, to say the least. This is where we are in America. Governors not taking their rightful and legal jobs, their responsibilities to protect their states from rogue politicians under them. We have that opportunity here in New York State as well. Kathy Hochul can absolutely rein in Zohran Mamdani. She could absolutely rein in Alvin Bragg, the DA of Manhattan County, New York County. She won't do it because increasingly what we've seen in America is a Democratic Party that is absolutely being run like the Supreme Soviet. When I was growing up in America in the 70s and 80s, you had a lot of Democrats and Republicans who bucked their national party all the time. All the time. Ed Koch did it in New York City. Mario Cuomo did it somewhat frequently in New York State. They can't do it now. They seem to be unable to do so. And even John Fetterman, who speaks out against his party a lot, at the end of the day, he has voted precious few times against his party. Very rarely. He did it last week when he voted Markwayne Mullin out of committee. So it's not a complete all talk, no walk from John Fetterman. I'll give him credit for that. But for the most part, at the end of the day, he doesn't vote with the Republicans in any way whatsoever, even though he has a big outspoken streak of speaking out against his party. And I love what he says when he does so. Good stuff. But he doesn't vote enough to prove it, unfortunately. Did it once, did it a couple times, so I give him credit for that. But that's what we have here in this country right now. Tough situation. Now, I talked to you earlier this half hour about all those cases, maybe even looking at them in the news the last couple of days, where Facebook, the Facebook parent Meta platform, which also owns Instagram and WhatsApp, and Google, because of its YouTube social media platform, which is, it's also a video platform, but yet it can be used as social media. And now Europe, the European Union, is investigating Snapchat, by the way, all for the same thing. Not protecting children from predators, not protecting undue influence on children, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, fine, I get it. You think it's just the children? You think that as an adult you're immune from these kinds of things going on social media? There is one statistic that has been really, really bothering me for the last couple of months, ever since I first saw it. I saw that almost every poll shows that in the last 30 years, and most of the polls were even more specific, they were more like the last 20 years, American men, voting age males in America who have been voting ever since 25 years ago and on. So you're talking about people who are at least 43 years old, probably in their 50s and older. Their voting habits, and more importantly, their belief on certain issues, everything from the death penalty to illegal immigration to taxes, et cetera, hasn't changed. There's been less than a 1% change in voting males in America on these major issues and the way they vote. No change whatsoever. Men are, for better or for worse, stuck in where they were 25 years ago. Women drastically changed to the left. 15, 20, 30-point changes in the way women have been voting and thinking about major cultural issues. And I'm sorry, it's not a mystery why. The answer is social media. And I'm not saying that women are more susceptible to social media than men are. It's just that women are engaging in news and cultural issues more than they ever had before because of social media. Think about shows like the Today Show and the way that news is different from the nightly news, or at least was in years ago. And I know a lot of couples that are very, very close, whether they're married or they're just dating or whatever. But one thing I don't know of any couple doing is scrolling through social media together. Nobody does that as a group exercise. And this, to me, is the biggest explanation for why women have gone so far to the left in their voting habits. Men were getting all kinds of stimuli all over the place. They're paying attention to sports. They're doing other things. It's got nothing to do with better brains or weaker brains or anything else like that, or more responsibility or less. It's got nothing to do with any of those cultural things. If you think I'm trying to make a feminist or an anti-feminist comment, you're wrong. This is just about a new market that was created. Women looking at major news issues and cultural issues in a different way than they ever had before and in a larger frequency. And it's pushed them to the left, and it's caused some serious, serious divisions in this country. When we come back here on the Stone Zone, I'm going to have a story that would absolutely shock the world at any time in our history, but especially if you were talking about the years of World War II. You're going to be shocked by this story when we come back.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
It is a great, great person, Roger Stone.
The Stone Zone.
There's nothing like your first Mac. Here's what people online are sharing. @Dr. Rain says, everything is just so smooth and fast, I still can't get over it. Syncing stuff between my phone and this is just chef's kiss. @Mr. Incredible 488 says, Apple Silicon basically cures low battery trauma. That's how they felt with their first Mac. How will you? Introducing the all-new MacBook Neo. An amazing Mac at a surprising price. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
Roger Stone, who's a one of the smartest political minds. Roger Stone was persecuted. People forget he's actually a brilliant political analyst.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
I'm Jake Novak, filling in for Roger Stone as we round out this program. I promised you some good news. Let me give it to you fast and furious. First, the International Olympic Committee deciding today not to allow men to participate in women's sports in the Olympics. They're going to do a gene test to make sure that doesn't happen. This, of course, is basic common sense. It's basic decency. Took too long for this to happen. You may recall at the 2024 Summer Games a couple of years ago, a biological man won the women's boxing gold medal, almost killed some of the people he fought against. That probably, I think, was really the last straw here. And good for the IOC for doing that. It's a big win for Donald Trump and for the United States because the Olympics are going to be here in Los Angeles in 2028. It's great to have that cloud lifted over the Olympics. So that's one good news story. Another good news story, I think it's actually the best of all the good news stories, but I don't consider this a surprise in any way whatsoever. Just an amazing incident at JFK Airport today. A 1-year-old toddler, baby, definitely having some kind of choking incident, went limp in the security line, and the ICE agents who were positioned along that line immediately saw it when the father called for help. They were able to administer the Heimlich maneuver to the child, and that child is fine. Don't know if that would have been the result. I really don't, if the ICE agents hadn't been at the airport. That's not something TSA agents are likely to go ahead and do. I'm not saying that it wouldn't want to try, but that's a great, great story today. Now, the story that just blows my mind, anyone who knows anything about history or culture has to be absolutely blown away by this. This is an incredible story. Just listen to this and pretend you're in 1943 just for a second. Israel is in advanced negotiations right now with Volkswagen in Germany to convert a large Volkswagen car plant in Germany into a factory for manufacturing components for the Iron Dome air defense system. And those components will be used by Iron Dome batteries here in the United States, in Israel, and Germany. Germany now relies on Israel for vital aspects of its own defense, and Israel is providing it. Let me say that again. Germany now relies on Israel for vital aspects of its defense, and Israel's happy to provide it for them. On their own soil, on German soil at a Volkswagen plant. You know who founded Volkswagen, the official Volkswagen? You don't like Elon Musk founding Tesla? How about Adolf Hitler? Just incredible. What an incredible story. Talk about a turnaround. Talk about the world upside down, but in a good way. By the way, this news comes on the same day that we learned that foreign investment in the Israeli stock market, the number of foreign-owned trades on the Israeli stock market before the Iran war, 35% of daily trading. You know what it is now? 41%. This whole illusion, talk about delusions. We've come full circle in this program. I started with a list of the 5 big delusions here in America right now. But there's delusions everywhere. And one of the delusions is that Israel is somehow marginalized, somehow on an island of its own. And yes, in academic worlds and in the addled brain of Tucker Carlson, that's true. But in the real world, where money tells you what people really think because they put their money where their mouth is or their hearts happen to be, Israel's not isolated. It's less and less isolated every time. They make the technology. It makes the resources that people need. And they know in their hearts that it's not a genocidal country. Simple as that. I'm Jake Novak. I've been filling in for Roger Stone this evening. Thank you for taking your time to be with me tonight. You'll hear from me again soon.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?